Again, welcome everybody to the Spectra Assure Product Spotlight Series, Episode 3, Finding the Safest Dependencies for Your App with Spectra Assure Community. I am Josh Knox. I'm a senior cyber strategist at ReversingLabs. Everybody just calls me Knox. And I'm excited to be here with you to show this to you today. All right, so ReversingLabs at a glance. We are the trusted authority in software and file security with, solutions that have continually improved over the last 15 years. Our threat repository tracks over 40 billion files, both malware and goodware. And that number is continuing to grow with our threat research team methodically analyzing, categorizing new instances of malware and goodware daily. Now that 40 billion files puts our repository over 7 times larger than our closest competitor. And what a lot of people don't know about us is that more than 60 of the leading cybersecurity companies use us. They take our feeds to be able to get file reputation and verdicts on whether files are good or bad. So you're probably already using us inside solutions that you have already, and you just didn't know it. And I always like to point that out because you see over here on the left here, 20 million files analyzed daily. And I've had people ask me the question, how do you analyze that many files every day, or where do they all come from? Well, that's because all of these other cybersecurity companies that are feeding us files and then allowing us to give them back our scans, reputation, and intel that we have on them. We've recently received accolades for our Premier Channel Partner Program, along with being recognized by Gartner as a leading software supply chain provider and a contributor for the 2024 edition of the Verizon DBIR report. So there you go. There's a little more about us. All right, so this is going to be a really simple webinar today, everybody. We're going to do a demo, and then we're going to have Q&A. So that's it. Nice and simple. So let's jump into it. We're going to jump straight into the Spectra community site. So let me flip over here, and here we are. So what we've done is we've created Spectra Assure Community, and we've made this available to everyone, and we want to give back. So what we've done is we've been scanning open source communities. And when I say open source communities, I'm going to hit this drop down here. I'm talking about things like NPM, which if you don't know what NPM is, that is for JavaScript packages. If you are building with JavaScript and you need to import packages, you're going to use NPM to import the JavaScript packages into your project. If you're using Python, you're going to use PyPi to import your packages. And if you're using Ruby, you use RubyGems. And Maven is another one of these repository communities for JavaScript, but that one is on the horizon. You'll see that's grayed out there because we haven't added that yet. So what we've done is we are scanning all of these modules or libraries or gems, whatever you want to call them, and we are finding out if they have malware or finding out if they are okay. And what we've done is we've released that information to the world, and we're trying to give back to the community to help them be able to decide if a package is safe, to be able to come in here and look and see if it is something that they should use in their projects. We'll look at that in just a second. And then over here, you'll see coming soon, we're also building, adding in tools for IED plugins and for your CI/CD pipelines to be able to help with these things too. Those are coming out in the future. The open source scanning that we have is available today. So we'll go ahead and pop into one of these just because I know you're ready to go and take a look. We'll take a look, come back to this page a little later and look at the rest of it. So we are going to go to PyPi because that's the one I want to look at. And let's say that we're building an application, not Flask. I know that really wants to put Flask in there. But let's say that we're building a Python application and we need to talk to AWS. And if we need to talk to AWS, if you've ever done some Python with AWS, you know that you're going to need the Bodo3 library to be able to do that. So let's hit enter. and we're going to get our results here on Bodo3. So we've looked up looked up the Bodo3 library from Python, and you can see our search results here. It found 671 results, which to me seems kind of crazy that you would have that many libraries around it. These are derivatives or some kind of knockoffs or extra functionality to it. But here is the actual Bodo3 library. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to take a look at what it has to say for this. So before we even go that far, look here. This is the AWS SDK for Python. We can see immediately that we know the latest version. We can see when it was published 2 days ago, which always makes me feel better because that means that this library is being updated frequently. You can see some of these other ones as we scroll down here. 2 months ago, over 54 years ago. That doesn't seem right. We also see that one as malicious. We'll come back to that in a minute. Over 2 years ago, 5 months ago. Whenever you see those long amounts of time, I'm always worried that that project is stale, and it gives me pause about adding it into something I'm using. We don't need to open a new tab. Let's just open it. And here we go. Now, those of you that are familiar with the Spectra Assure console will notice that this looks very similar to the full version of Spectra Assure, and we did that on purpose. But this is available to anybody. You can go to secure.software. You can see up here, secure.software, and anybody can go to this site and get this report. So let's start at the top here. We're going to start seeing what is available right at a glance. You've got Bodo3. We have the latest version. This is a key project. It's a top 10 project for all of Python. It was updated 2 days ago. We see over here that it passes and that everything is awesome. That's great to know. And we can see under the safe assessment that licenses, fine, secrets, vulnerability, hardening, tampering, and malware. All of those things are coming up fine. We scroll down here, we see some behaviors. It does have the ability to delete a file or a directory, which, by the way, this is really cool. This scan not only tells you if a module is good or bad, or if there's vulnerabilities in it, but it's pointing out behaviors in it. And I think a lot of times we don't think about that. We don't think about the permissions that a module that we're importing into our project may be adding to that project. And sometimes it's things we don't want. In this case, it's just, it can add or delete a file or directory, or it can delete a file or directory. And it does convert binary data into string representation, commonly known as obfuscation. But for those of you that have used Bodo3, you know that AWS many times requires you to encrypt, not encrypt, to encode in base 64 before you send things to AWS. So you have to encode it in base 64, and then sometimes you have to decode from base 64 when you receive things from AWS. This has been downloaded 24 billion times. There's 3 maintainers, which it's funny. We're going to look at this because I think it's interesting. When you click on the maintainers for this one, it just says Amazon Web Services, because obviously there are more than 3 maintainers. There's lots of people, I'm sure, maintaining this. So it just generically tells us that Amazon Web Services is responsible for this package. We could look at dependencies here. These are other Python modules that it relies upon. And that's all we really need to see for this one. So pretty safe. I think we're okay with Bodo3. Now, if we go back though, and we look at these search results, you can see down here that somebody made a package named Bodo33, obviously hoping that you're going to make a typing mistake, and they're hoping you're going to use this. So let's take a look at this guy, this malicious package, and see what it's all about. So in this case, Bodo33 has been found to be malicious by RL Research. It did fail. It is malicious. It has 3 supply chain attack artifacts inside it. If we look down here at the incidents, it was reported by ReversingLabs, and it was also reported by Community, and it has over here Sneak. So Sneak was a part of also reporting that this was a bad package. You look at the safe assessment here, we can see that it did find malware in it. It found 3 examples of that. detected the presence of known software supply chain artifacts, has several more behaviors here. Let's see. It can execute an expression, which is a fancy way of saying it can basically execute anything it wants, and has these other things inside it. So this is not something that you want to download. And we can see down here, let's see. This is what I wanted to show you over here. So we noticed down here, it also gives us things like, is this malicious? And it says that it is. And if you look at is Bodo 33 popular, it says the Python package Bodo 3 is not widely used. It has 230 recorded downloads. That's it. So I have a feeling that this was found out as a bad malicious repository pretty quickly. We do see up here that it has a link to this this module in PyPi. If we try to go to that, we can see that PyPi has already removed it. It's not there anymore because it was reported as malicious and taken down. So there we go on that one. Now, let's go back to the community site now. I'm going to show you a couple more things on this page. So you land on this community site, you can immediately start to look at packages if you want. You can click here and check out the communities. You can scroll down and you can see here that we have been scanning. We've got over 5 million packages that we're scanning and that we're putting here freely available for people to look at. We found we're reporting over 15,000 malicious packages, and we're pointing out that 3,000 of those are packages that we were the first to report, that we found ourselves. This little carousel down here has got some blogs on from the research that our team has done in finding some of these malicious packages. And then down here is just a list of some really popular packages for these particular communities, and if any of them are reporting anything bad in them, like this Bodo core right now. It's a top 10, and it does fail. It's got some vulnerabilities in it. So let's look at another example now. And this time we're going to look at an NPM example, and I want to look at colors. So colors is a really popular repository here for JavaScript. You can see it's in the top 1,000. And if we go ahead and click on it, now right now, everything is beautiful. There is nothing wrong with this guy. But it hasn't been, it was published almost 5 years ago. And I guess this is one of those where they just really didn't have to, they haven't had to change anything. It's stayed the same. We can see though that over time, there has been some issues with this package. You can see that it's had some incidents in the past. If we click on the issues right now, the only thing is it just detects the presence of a file containing URLs that link to raw files on GitHub. And that's the same thing right there. If we go back, so this guy feels right now is pretty safe. We've got it, and we would feel pretty comfortable using this guy. Now, if we go back, we're going to see here that yet again, there is another imposter, I guess you would call it, down here. And this guy is called Colors with an S. So let's click on this guy. And this is another one where they were trying to get you to notice or trying to get you to type the wrong thing in so that you would accidentally install it. Now, this one's over 2 years old, and it also has been removed. We click down on this one. This one I wanted to show you because this one is not as old. You can see here, this is only a month ago. So less than a month ago, somebody created a package called Color EC or Color Sec. I'm not sure exactly what they were trying to do there. But we can see here that this one is malicious. It has already been removed. You can see again that this was reported by ReversingLabs as malicious, and that it was removed by the community. Interesting one to look at though, because we can see that it was reported malicious by us about 4 days ago, was removed about a month ago. We can see that this one had vulnerabilities, malware, secrets. If we click on the issues here, we can see again the presence of known software supply chain attacks, malicious files, private keys were in it. The behaviors were very interesting here because if you look at the behaviors, this one even has evasion that has been found inside it. So it's not just the modify files or delete things. Wow, delete a registry key. That is definitely not something you want. So this guy looked like it was bad news really quick. So again, if you think about a use case for this, if you are developing software, it would behoove you to come here and to say, hey, I am going to import, like for instance, let's go back to PyPi. I am importing the OpenAI module into my Python so that I can use ChatGPT's API in my application. And if that is the case, we can look here and we can see, look, here is OpenAI. This is the official Python library for OpenAI. That's important to know. Sometimes you don't know if a package is actually the official package for something, and we're pointing it out immediately here. This is the official package for OpenAI's API. It was updated 3 days ago, but it does have some vulnerabilities in it. So let's take a look at it and see what this is about. So we look here and we see that its latest top 1,000, and it has vulnerabilities. Now, if we want to see these, we're going to go over here and we can see here are the vulnerabilities. So we click on it. Now, the reason it said, if we go back, let me go back. Notice there's a critical and a high, okay? And then everything else is medium. So we're going to go back and we're going to see here that it says there are 2 severe vulnerabilities. And we can see over here that if we look at vulnerabilities, it says 8. The reason the numbers are different is because these 2 are severe. And this is pointing out that there are 8 total. So let's click on that. And we can see here very quickly, and this is where I'm so glad that we're giving this out to the world and to the community, because this very quickly at a glance tells you what these vulnerabilities are inside of this module. And we can click on this guy right here and we can pop out and take a look at it. So this particular CVE, it says that the issue was discovered in NumPy and earlier. It uses pickle unsafely. So it's not using pickle properly. Pickle is a way that Python takes, I believe, JSON and is able to store it in a more binary type form so that it can't be modified. And then Python knows how to decode that pickle file back into that JSON. So it's not using it correctly. And so there's something about that in the actual vulnerability, and it's a critical. And you see here, this one is really huge, that there are exploits that exist for this CVE. That's an important thing to know, because that means that someone is exploiting it out, or someone knows how to exploit it out there. And then there are fixes available. That's important to know, because you may want to apply that fix and get it fixed. The other thing is this gives you the ability to make your own decision about using this package. You can look at the CVE and say, okay, here's the problem. And then you may be able to document, here's the way we're going to mitigate the problem. Here's the way we are going to that we are aware of it, but we've done these things to try to make sure that that won't be a problem for us. So this is just wonderful information to be able to have about a project that you're looking at. Also, if we look here, we haven't looked at this yet, but we can see the dependencies of this module. So the OpenAI API module uses all of these dependencies. And if we go over here and change this to like 100, there we go. And now we can see them all at once. So this is it. These are all of the dependencies right here that it uses. And there's that NumPy that we saw. Now let's have some fun, and we'll click on NumPy. And we'll see here that, so NumPy as a base dependency is okay. So this version of NumPy 2.0 is fixed. That makes me feel like the version that the version that Open API may be using may have that vulnerability in it, or the version that it's calling for, or at least something like that. So this allows you to go back and do your homework, figure these things out for you, and again, see what your risk tolerance is for these things. Okay, and I think that is about all that I want to show. Now, I do want to go back over. I do want to show here, get the full report. So if you are in here and you really want to know some of these things, for instance, if you click on these things further, you can see you can get kind of a more detailed description on what these. This is a software quality, detected the presence of a severe vulnerability, and we'll generically tell you what that means, how that or what that is specifically. But if you really want the full report for any of these modules, or you just want to be able to scan your software in full, you can click on full report and it takes you to a page here to be able to sign up for a 14-day trial and check out the full version of Spectra Assure. If you haven't seen before, Spectra Assure is Spectra Assure enables you to be able to take your software and be able to get a full scan on it. So if I look here I'm going to go into projects, and I was doing a project on LibreOffice, and there's Windows, and when you click on it here, you get even more insights than from the community site. You're able to drill into these things and look at them in a much deeper way. We can go into these issues. We can open them up. We can find out exactly where they are in the file path. You get the full report and the full analysis. And if that's what you need, you can click that button and find out more about the full Spectra Assure product. All right, let me go back here. Hey, thanks again to everybody for showing up today. I'll hang out here for just another second if anybody else has any questions. Thank you so much for coming. Go check out secure.software and go check out our Spectra Assure community site.